Okay, so we're going to continue JAX-RS, so the topics we are going to cover are considered a bit more advanced topics. First, we are going to see the concept of sub-resource locators. So we have seen example of that in exercise 5 already. You're basically creating user resource as a sub-resource object. Okay, so we're going to learn the concept of it in a bit more detail. And we have also seen some builder URIs, like a URI builder and URIinfo classes. So these are utility classes that you can use to build URI, the link. Okay, and we are going to see how we can handle exceptions, and we are going to see how we can handle security. So as far as security is concerned, it's not that much different from any web application security. After all, RESTful web services is a form of web application. So exactly the same security constraints can be used. Okay. Mostly we are talking about HTTPS. Okay, just like a typical web application is using HTTPS. Okay, so we can actually deal with some security, and then deployment options. You can deploy either as a web application, or you can deploy it as a SE application. So let's talk about the sub-resource locators or sub-resource. So what is sub-resource locator or sub-resource? Sub-resource is a method annotated with path but not annotated with get or post. Instead, it's going to return a sub-resource object, which itself contains methods and get or post annotations. So it's actually delegating the task to a sub-resource object which contains methods for handling HTTP methods. So the reason you might want to use sub-resource is polymorphism. Okay, so what that means is that sub-resource locator may return different subtype resource object depending on the request. Okay, so maybe this could be a good example. For example, a sub-resource locator could return different subtype resource depending on the role of the principal that is authenticated. So, you might want to use a different resource object, if the user belongs to top level category of customers or non, the less important category of customers and kind of things. Okay, so you might actually handle a request differently. So let's see an example. We are going to actually see examples later on. So this is example. This is actually, basically to show the syntax of it. So this is the root resource. So it has its own path here. So /items. And then when there is a /item content, this is the concatenated to item here. And here, instead of handling HTTP requests, so you can see this guy doesn't have its own get or put and things like that. Instead, it's going to create a sub-resource object. So sub-resource object is item content resource 1, item content resource 2. So depending on some business logic, or even some time of the day. So if it is in the middle of before noon, you might want to send this object. If it is afternoon time, then you might want to send this, something like that. Okay. And this sub-resource object is the one that can actually handle HTTP requests. So in this case, this item content resource 1 is going to use this get method for handling HTTP get. And it will use put method to handle this put request. And the item content resource up to object might actually have the same method, but it will actually have a different implementation. Okay. All right, so that's what I mean by sub-resource locator could be used to support polymorphic behavior. Okay, so depending on some business logic, time of the day, it might actually behave differently. Okay. Okay. So we have seen example of the sub-resource in our user CRUD sample application we worked with in lab 1. So we're gonna just move on. Now, next topic is building URIs with URIBuilder and URIinfo classes. Okay, these are used for linking things together. So let's talk about what it means. So, as I mentioned before, a very important aspect of REST is hyperlinks. Okay, or URIs. Those are the representations those are the representations that clients can use to transition to a web service to new application state. So in fact, there is a statement that hypermedia is the engine of application state. So in your response, you should actually return hyperlinks as much as possible. Okay. So you are going to actually build this URI as hyperlinks, and the JAX Web Services provide utility classes such as URIBuilder to to actually make your life easier for building these URIs. Okay, so without using URIBuilder class, you can use this URI class that has been around for many years, but this is very clumsy to use. Okay, so this is that statement. Building URIs and building them safely is not easy with existing Java.NET URI class. Okay, so that's the reason JAX-RS has URI Builder utility class that makes it easy and simple to build URIs. So let's see examples of that. So that is URI Builder class, and we're going to actually see example of that in a few minutes. URIInfo class provides a base URI information. So when you're building URI, you need to know the base. Okay, so if you are working with an application that is deployed in localhost :8080/my app, then that is the URL that you are going to use a lot to build your URI. So we need some utility class that give us that base URI right away. Okay, so that is basically this URIInfo class is all about. Okay, so let's see an example. So you can actually inject URIInfo object by using @context annotation. Okay, so in this case we have users, and then we have the add user from XML data method that will add a brand new user, and it will read data in the form of XML. Okay, and you can see this is a post. That's the reason it's used for adding a new user. Okay, so as we learned, when we add a brand new user, we want to return URL of a newly added user in the location header in the response message, right? Okay, so that's why here we should be able to create. So basically, this is the one that we are sending. Okay, as the value of location header. So in order to actually build it, so here you can get the URI builder from so this URIInfo class, URIInfo object, you can get request URI. So when you call get request URI method, that will give you the request URI. Okay, that actually comes to this method. Okay, so and then you get the URI builder object, and then you can add ID. So basically what we want to do is that we are basically here when you're trying to add is going to be something like localhost :8080/my app/users, right? So that is this space URI. Okay, so and then what we want to do is we want to add an ID at the end. So we are calling path method to basically add an ID. Okay, and then we are going to actually so at that point we can just call the build method. Okay, and basically we say path ID. What is this? I'm not sure why we have that. Yeah, so up to this point, the URI builder should have all the URL that is needed for the newly created user. Let's see. So yeah, I have to take a look why we need this particular get users get ID. Okay. Let's see. All right. Okay, so yeah, hopefully, yeah, we can exercise in exercise 1.1. So let's take a look at the exercise 1.1. Oh, we want to go to the second exercise. Okay, so here we are going to exercise URIBuilder, URIInfo, and context. Okay, I think some of you had this problem. So whenever you have some issues with the JRE or something like that, make sure you have installed the JDK instead of JRE. Okay, anyway, exercise 1 is we are going to build JAX-RS URIBuilder Maven project. So let's try build that. JAX-RS URIBuilder. Here, this is the one. So let's build it. And let's run it. The same issues. I thought I actually fixed that one. Man. So it's actually artificial ID things. Yeah, looks like I didn't change this one either. So just change that settings file in the project root directory. Okay, so if I click this one, and this is newly created URI. Okay, so let's take a look at the code. Let me just close this guy. And you can certainly perform using the REST, and you can actually see observed, last modified, and custom. Yeah, okay. So what we want to do is that you want to see whether there is a custom headers are in fact also being displayed. Okay, and the reason is because we add those things. So here we have URIInfo injected, and then we have we created. So this is the get request URL. So that should be, in this case, is like this. Okay. Actually, including get. So we have actually path here. So the whole thing. This is the this is captured by this URIInfo get request URI. Okay. So we get the URIBuilder object, and then we set the index, which is good. And then we are going to convert it into a string. And then, yeah, that's pretty much, yeah, so this is what I expected. Okay, so we just called build. So I think my slide was not correct. So I think, yeah, this one is probably not correct. Okay, so let me fix it. So this one makes more sense. Okay. And the next one is JAX-RS. Yeah, okay, so just do exercise 1.1 because we haven't talked about 1.2 yet. Okay, so I'll give you guys 5 minutes to try the exercise 1.1. Next topic is context object injection via context. So you can inject a bunch of things, including URIInfo, and you can get the HTTP headers. You can get the security context object as well. And this is what we are going to use later on when we do security. And you can get the request object. You can get the providers as well. So here we're going to do exercise 1.2. So in exercise 1.2, basically we are injecting in this case URIInfo, and here injecting the HTTP headers and security context and method of request. Okay, so let's try to run this guy. It's JAX-RS context. Okay, so I have to actually make sure that oh, it's actually the something I have already done that, right? Okay, so let's just run this guy one more time. Yeah, it looks like I didn't. So yeah, basically what you have to do is again, here you go. I have to change this guy. So I'm going to change the artifact ID with this. Okay, save and run as. So this is getting absolute path, and this one is getting accept from HTTP headers. This is getting security context. I'm checking whether security context is secure or not. Because I haven't logged in anything like that, it will say false. So I'm just calling is secure method. And method of request, I'm checking whether this is a get or post. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys about 5 or 10 minutes to try this exercise. In the meantime, I'm going to just fix these things. Okay, let's move on. Looks like I didn't actually pause it. Okay. All right, so let's move on to the next topic, which is content negotiation. So the one of the most popular features of REST application is being able to return different representations or formats of resources. The most popular formats are again XML and JSON. So far what we have seen in terms of asking for a particular format from client perspective was setting the accept header, right? But there are two other means users can use. It's actually more popular than accept header because changing accept header is very difficult from programmer's perspective. Okay, so typically from user's perspective, what I mean. So user can actually specify the extension at the end of the URL. So if the user say .json, that means the user wants to respond in the form of JSON, or it could be in the form of request parameter. So it says, user can say question mark and format equal JSON. So basically, I want to receive it in the form of JSON. Okay, or accept header is another option, but these two are much more convenient. So exercise 2, let's do how we can do this. So in exercise 2, we are going to handle these various options. Okay, so if you go to content negotiation, so in this case, we are going to use URL. Okay, so if you just say XML, it will return in the form of XML. If you just say JSON, it will return in the form of JSON. And if you just say XYZ, at this point there is no XYZ extension that is understood. So you are going to receive 4.4 error. Okay, so you got 4.4 because there is no resource out there that can handle that particular URL request. So if you see the code, so here, basically we are capturing so basically we are capturing users and the .xml. So this is handling for .xml, and this is .json. So you can actually capture. This is actually interesting. So whatever resource ID is going. Yeah. So this is the variable. So basically, we capture that resource ID as a path param, and then basically we capture that resource ID to get the resource, and then we are setting the media type to XML, and in this case JSON. Okay, and 2.2 we are going to actually handle it through a little bit different means. So in this case, we can even capture this type as a type variable, and then we are going to receive as a type argument, and then we can check whether type is XML or JSON, and then we are going to do differently. Okay, so either this scheme or this scheme is fine. Okay, and then this is the case we are handling the format request in the request parameter. So in this case, format equal XML, format equal JSON, format equal XYZ. And in this case, we are getting that format in terms of query param. Okay, so we get the format string, and again, depending on the format is XML or JSON, we'll do it differently. Okay, and the last one is accept header. So we have seen examples of this one already. So in this case, when you run the application, here we are, basically inject HTTP headers, and again, depending on, and we actually, we actually digest the values in the accept header, and then we are basically handling it. Okay, so this logic is probably not that much important, meaning you can just get the accept header. It's a collection of media type, right? Okay, and then you are going to actually handle it. You're gonna check whether this is the XML or not. If that's the case, if it's JSON format, then you're gonna actually return JSON. Looks like this is incorrect. This one should be XML. Yeah, so this one should be XML and this one should be JSON. Okay, so I think I have something, accept header. Let me just write it down. Accept header exercise. This actually needs to be corrected. Okay, so and then this is the accept header client. In the client, you can actually, yeah, this is a client, the code. This is Java SE application content negotiation accept header client Maven project, and we are actually using what is called the web resource, the client code. Okay, so this is the we are basically this is URL, and then we are basically setting the accept header. Okay, and then we are sending the request. Okay, so the place that you are sending the request is okay, so you got the response, and client resource. I expect there is actually some kind of send. Oh, okay, so I think this is get. Yeah, so get is the method that actually sends the request to the server using, in this case, is using HTTP GET. Okay. All right, so I'm going to give you guys about 10 minutes, 12 minutes to try this exercise. Next topic is exception. So you can use existing exceptions. These are the exceptions that are provided by JAX-RS. For example, not found exception. So this not found exception is exception class you can use right away. So if there is a method and the method is supposed to find something, and if it is not found, so in this case, a user has asked for, give me information about this particular item ID, item number 5 or something like that. So here it gets the item ID and you try to get it from maybe from the database or from somewhere. And if it is not found, for example, I is null, then you might want to return some exception. So in this case, you can send back not found exception. Okay, and so not found exception will be actually translated into 4.4. Okay, not found exception. If you see the not found exception source code, you can see it's an extension of web application exception. Okay, so not found exception is basically setting the response status to response.notfound, which is 4.4. Okay, and then set the message that was sent by the user. In this case, whatever message that is actually being sent back. And then it builds it as a text plane, and then that's what gets returned. Okay. So this is the code that is provided by JAX-RS package. Okay, so that is the implementation of not found exception. You can also specify, you can also use what is called the entity not found mapper. So in this case, suppose if you want to map not found entity not found exception to 4.4, you can actually set like this. Okay, so we're going to try these things in the hands-on lab. So let's do exercise 3. So exercise 3 here, we are going to play around with the exception handling. So in this case, we are going to see the not found exception is being used here. When you run the application, one.xml, that should work fine because there are in fact, I think 2 or 3 users. So one.xml certainly is a valid user. But when you're trying to get 10th user, obviously this is not a valid user, so it should return 4.4. Okay, and the way things work is here we are basically using in this case we are getting a response. So we are basically creating 4 for ourselves. So response.status, and then we say response not found. This is actually 4.4. Okay, and then this is a message from the error. Okay, and then we build the response, and that's what gets returned. Okay, so that is actually the case that we are building response for ourselves. Okay, now next one is actually using not found exception. So in this case, we are basically using not found exception, and then we basically return a message. Okay, and 3.3 is we are using web application exception class. You can actually create web application exception passing 4.4. Okay, so if you say 4.3 or 4.2, that's the value that will be returned. Okay, so pretty straightforward. So I'll give you guys about 7 minutes to try this exercise. Next topic is security. So as I mentioned before, RESTful web service is basically a web application. So same security scheme can be actually used. So in order to get the security context object, again, you can use add context annotation. From the security context object, then you can find information about the user. So security context can be used in conjunction with the sub-resource locators to return different resource depending on user's role. So this is another example where you can actually return different sub-resource object. For example, sub-resource object will return a different resource if the user is preferred customer. Okay. So this is the code. So suppose we have received basket the URL request, and this method gets invoked. And so depending on the security context, we can actually inject security context object as an argument as well here. So we can check whether security context, we can check whether the user is in fact belonging to preferred customer or not. And if user belongs to preferred customer, we can return a preferred customer shopping basket resource object, which handles differently from shopping basket resource object, which is used for regular customers. Okay. All right, so let's do exercise 4. So here we are going to actually play around with the security. So here so here we're going to actually use, believe it or not, we are going to actually use Tomcat. Okay, yeah. So this one, yeah. So I don't think you can use. You should be able to use Eclipse here as well, because as long as you are using the same Tomcat. And so, you know, as easy way of doing things, we are going to actually add roles. The admin role like this, and and then we can actually add the security context. Okay, and so let me actually explain what it means. So in the case of Tomcat, basically you are adding two roles, admin and the user role. And then you're adding two users. One user is admin, and the other one is user. And this admin role belongs to manager, admin, and user. And this user belongs to just the user role. Okay. So here we define two roles as well as the users. Okay. And in web.xml file, we added security constraints. So this is exactly the same security constraint that typical web application will have. Okay. So in this case, what we are saying is that this secure website, which is resources star, okay, will be accessible only in this case admin and user, okay, and yeah. So in this case, pretty straightforward. You know, you're basically having either admin or user role to be able to access this resources star. Okay, and then you also actually define the security roles here. Okay, and yes, the security we are using basic file realm. Okay, all right. Now you can actually use these annotations. So here we are going to use role allowed. So this is from Java. Okay, so this is the Java FX annotation security roles allowed. Okay, so basically for this the method, we are going to allow only the user that belongs to user role, and this one we are going to allow only for the secure only the admin role. Okay, so and then we're gonna actually run it. Okay, so we're gonna actually run this one over Tomcat. So okay, so looks like this is an example that you can actually run in the Tomcat. So let's try security, hello world secure. Okay, so first of all we have to let me try to see whether I can run this guy in Tomcat of Eclipse, and if it doesn't work, then I'm gonna try NetBeans. Okay, I mean that should actually work exactly the same. Okay, so let me try to run it without so here, without changing Tomcat for now, okay, so I just want to make sure that it runs first or not. So we're gonna actually leave Maven clean. And run on server. So let's try to run. If you're using Glassfish, you can certainly use the Glassfish, but you have to actually configure a lot more complex, user ID and group ID, and then you have to actually map those things using Sun's special XML file, things like that. So that's the reason we are using Tomcat here. Okay, so let's see whether it works. Not good. Which is referenced by class path doesn't exist. Okay, so I'm gonna try NetBeans. I'll try to solve this problem later on. So let's see whether we have a better luck using NetBeans this particular lab. Okay, so it looks like I already have it. So let me try to run this guy on Tomcat first. Okay. No, I don't want to deploy the glassfish. So let me just stop the glassfish. Okay. So let's see. I'm gonna just stop the glassfish. Yeah, actually, that means you don't have to actually stop the glassfish because Tomcat is actually using different ports. It's using 8084, while Tomcat glassfish is using 8080. So you can still should be able to have both the servers up and running. Okay, but here I'm going to make sure I'm actually running. So run. I'm going to select Tomcat and okay. And let's see whether it's going to work. Okay, so you should be able to run Tomcat. You should be able to deploy your RESTful application on Tomcat. I'll take a look at why the Eclipse Tomcat didn't work. But NetBeans. So in this case, we have to actually change. You have to change. So in this, let's actually try to run. We don't have any setup in the Tomcat's config file, so it will just say like this, and there is no user. Let me see if there are any users I actually have to set up. Okay, so if I go over here, the user I have set up is I haven't said anything, so even if I say user and user, it will not work. Okay, so let me just try user and user. Probably okay, it didn't work because we didn't set up the Tomcat. Okay, so that's expected. Okay, so we are gonna actually change the Tomcat to, in this case, we're gonna just change Tomcat of so this is the you have to actually go your home directory and NetBeans and Apache Tomcat in conf directory. So let's actually go over here. Oops. You go home directory, and I'm gonna go to that NetBeans, and we are using. Let's see. Okay, so where is the Tomcat's config file in this case? Okay, so maybe I should actually go to Tomcat's directory, and this one, let me just make sure where this guy is, where Tomcat is located. So here I'm gonna actually take a look at the properties, and it's servers Tomcat 7.0.41. Okay, and let me see if I can actually set this. There is no way I think I can access the config file tools. Yeah, I don't think I can set up platforms, deployment, classic sources, Java that. Okay, so there is no way that I can set these things. So I'm gonna actually go for servers, and I'm gonna go to Tomcat Tom, and the file we want to change is it's a Tomcat users.xml file. Okay, so it's probably under config. Yeah, so this is Tomcat users.xml file. So I'm going to change and yes, and I'm gonna just add these guys. Okay, so here I'm going to just add these 4 lines of code. So I think there is another one like this. So we'll just add on the Tomcat users. Okay, and save the change. Okay, and we are going to restart the Tomcat. So I'm gonna go over here and let's restart. Okay, and we are going to run it again. So yeah, so this is probably already set up, and so here, so we're gonna actually just see whether it's behaving as expected. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually see here when I say user and user, it should actually, you know, the display secured with user role. Okay, so let's run this guy. And this one, user. Oh, that didn't work. Let's see. Mm -mm -mm. So we changed. Make sure it's changed. And user. Let's try admin. It's possible that it's actually the cookies actually. So I'm gonna actually. I'm going to actually start from. I'm gonna actually clean all browsers because that cookie might be actually saved. So I'm gonna try again and run it so that we're actually studying in this case Chrome without any cookies. Okay, let's try this. And user login. Still. Okay, so that didn't work. Okay, so that's not good. Let me see whether we have actually changed these things already. Web.xml file, web pages, webinf, web. Okay, so that is all set up correctly. And I assume the source code is also set up correctly. Yeah, so it is the rollout user. So somehow I think this Tomcat users XML file somehow did not actually get read correctly. So let's actually copy. Maybe this file has to be under this directory. So, but let's take a look at the log file. this is the options and browser. Okay, so I'm gonna actually use embedded WebKit browser. Okay, apply. Okay, and we are going to just run it there. Looks like we're still using that one. Okay. Yeah, so I have to actually remove the cookies, but I could actually change it. Anyway, so I'm gonna actually let you guys to try this exercise for 12 minutes. Okay. So now let's move on to the next. So deployment options. So you can actually deploy the RESTful applications on two different platforms. One is Java EE platform, and the other one is Java SE platform. Okay, so when you are deploying over Java EE platform, it's just like a web application. You're deploying as a war application. Okay. So Java E6, in this case, is JAX-RS aware container, which means you don't have to have JAX-RS pieces in your WAR file. If you are deploying over Java E5, which is not aware JAX-RS, meaning you have to actually have JAX-RS Javas in your WAR file, as well as in this case, the web.xml has to point to the servlet implementation. Okay. If you're using Java E6, you don't have to, in the case, web.xml can point to application subclass. This is something there is in fact another JAX-RS presentation hands-on lab. You go to JPassion.com and let me just log in. We have a Java EE6 course, and in Java EE6 course here, we're actually dealing with JAX-RS 1.1. So what we are covering at the moment is JAX-RS 1.0, okay, which is running on Java E5. JAX-RS 1.1 runs on Java E5 and Java EE6, and obviously has some more features, such as application class, which means you don't have to have a web.xml file. Okay, so depending on your platform, but Java E5 based JAX-RS web application, as long as you have servlet implementation web.xml file, as we have done in our example cases, it should work on both Java E6 and 5. Okay. An application declares resource classes and can create your own subclassing, and we use the packaging. Yeah, so this is all relevant with JAX-RS 1.1. Okay, so Java SE6. You can also deploy your application over Java SE6 platform. Okay, so these are the code that you can use. Suppose you got my REST application, then you are going to get runtime delegate, and you provide the endpoint, and then you're basically, so here we're actually using the server-specific classes. So, that is not the standard of way actually deploying a RESTful application at the moment, I think. I have to check with the JAX-RS 2.0 and whether that actually, I'm almost too sure they actually provide the standard way of deploying a Java SE application with the JAX-RS 2.0. Okay. All right, so RESTful services. So pretty much all the internet, the public internet companies provide their services in the form of RESTful services. Examples include Google, Flickr, Yahoo, pretty much all their services you can access from your program in the form of RESTful services, okay? Exercise 5 is actually building a RESTful services from a database. Again, this is actually from NetBeans. I'm going to just explain the exercises, and then we are going to actually call it a day. Okay. So where that So this is basically using NetBeans, and NetBeans provides some, utility features in which you can expose JPA entities as RESTful services, RESTful resources. Okay, so here you create a web application. So we're going to call it customer DB, and we're going to select either Java E5 or Java E6. Okay. and we are going to create entity classes from database tables. So you select custom DB, customer DB, and new and entity classes from database. And here we are going to select JDBC sample. So these samples are in fact comes with the NetBeans and Glassfish. Okay. So here you have a bunch of tables you can select. Here we're gonna just select the customer table, and you can select any table, and we are going to add to the selected table. And you can see customer has a dependencies to discount code and micro market because they are interrelated with foreign keys. Okay, and then you specify your package, and then you can see NetBeans actually created entity classes representing those tables: customer.java, discount code Java, and micromarket.java. Okay, so these are all entity classes. Now what we are going to do is we are going to create RESTful web services from entity classes. So these are convenience feature that NetBeans provides. Okay, so we are going to say new, other, and here we are going to select web services, and then we are going to select RESTful web services from entity classes. And next, and then it's going to ask you what entity classes you want to actually use. So we're going to select them all. So now, and when you click finish, it will create so you're going to actually select create default Jersey REST servlet adapter for web.xml file. What it means is that, again, this is actually when you're using Java E5, it's going to use the servlet in web.xml file. Okay. If you are using this one, you're using the application. It's going to actually use what is called the application, which is actually supported in JAX-RS 1.1. Okay, and click OK. So here you can see the RESTful services, RESTful project classes are created for you. So you can see path with the customer DB.customer. And then if you actually expand RESTful web services, you can see these are the methods that are added in your project class. Okay. And then you can actually deploy it, and then you can actually test it. So NetBeans also provide test RESTful web services feature. So you right click it and you say test RESTful web services, and then here you are going to select the web test. Yeah, so this is actually a little bit of the workaround, because you need to have some kind of web application in order to actually access it. So just select this one, and in fact you're going to select dummy app, and OK, and then you can actually perform. So this is like REST client kind of feature. Okay, so you can actually send the HTTP request. So in this case, I'm trying to get I'm going to use get method, and the type I want is the application JSON. And then if you click JSON, and the maximum and minimum is, I like to actually select maximum 3, and I'm starting from the first customer. Okay. And then if you actually see the raw view, you can see 3 customers have been, customer information has been retrieved. Okay. And this is sub resource. So in this case, we go to sub resource. You can see this is customers and slash and 1. Yeah. So basically this is the customer number 3, and this is the number 1 is probably the item that customer has ordered, something like that. And you can see the headers. And you can, yeah, so this is the HTTP monitor that actually captures all the HTTP traffic. So if you're using Chrome, you can use the Chrome developer tool, and that should actually give you the same information. And you can also perform testing against a specific customer. So here I can actually specify customer number ID 2, and I want to get the format in the form of XML, and then click test, and it will send back the second customer in the form of XML, in the format of XML. And you can verify the information in the database. If you see the view, you can see that is the correct information. So in this example, when you actually get the second customer, it actually retrieved the data from the database table using JPA. Okay, And here you are going to perform update on the second customer. In this case, we are going to use put. So in this case, we are going to use a put, and then we change the value. Okay, so this is the content that we are going to send to the server to update this particular user. And then you send it, and if you get, oh, okay, so you'll experience 4.5 method not allowed exception. This is expected because there was no method that handles the put with. So, basically we have to add code. Okay, so we have to add code to handle the put, the request. Okay, so once you have done that, then we should be able to send we deployed that application again. And then we're going to actually do the put again, and then this time it should work. Okay, so it actually returns. So when you create a brand new user, or when you actually update a user, the response should actually point to the URL. Okay, so this is actually in this case, it's actually returning the data that was changed as well. Okay, and you can also verify the database, and you can see that it's been changed. Okay, so again, when you do the put here using RESTful Web Services request, the behind the scene is going to use the JPA to update the record in the table. Okay, so that is the exercise. All right. All right, so I am going to stop